we appreciate those comments. April, Dave, thank you. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm sure we'll continue that conversation. I'd like to.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first amended notice of meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Washington County this day, October the 1st, 2024. The agenda before us is as follows. First, we'd like to have an invocation by Major Bob Schmig of the Salvation Army. Is he here today? An invocation? Okay. Having said that, we'd love to have Chad, would you mind giving us an invocation? Following which, our Pledge of Allegiance is by Air National Guardsman Steve Bird, which I know is here because we had a nice chat. Glad you're here. Thank you so much. Chad.
Our dear kind, gracious Father in heaven, we're thankful for this day, and we're thankful for the many blessings Thou hast given us. And we're thankful to be residents of this beautiful county to which we live in, and we're grateful for our leadership that we have. And we ask Thee to please bless them to make decisions that will help grow and make Washington County a prosperous place. And we're grateful for them. We're grateful for our law enforcement and for our sheriff and our EMS and for everybody that protects and serves our community and watch over them, watch over their families and be with them. We're grateful for the country that we live in, the freedoms that we have to express ourselves and to be able to share our feelings with one another. And please bless all those who have closed minds and closed hearts, and please bless them. We're grateful for everything we have, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you for inviting me here today. So, anyway, thank you for all you do for the county.
Okay.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
For those who are present, we just had a vigorous discussion about law and order in our county, and I can guarantee you that there's nothing more important to us that the laws are followed, that have been publicly presented and voted upon by the public, as well as the laws of our land, and that our law enforcement in both cities and the county have nothing more in their heart than to make sure that laws are abided by and that people feel safe. That is our goal. Having said that, our agenda items are as follows. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed on the at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda consisting of the following items. A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for September 18th, 2024 through October 1st, 2024. B, consideration of commission meeting minutes of September 17th, 2024. C, consideration of America 250 work meeting minutes of September 18th, 2024. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. F, consideration of applications for property tax abatement, which there are 2. G, consideration of proof of publication of ordinance number 2024-1270-0 and 2024-1271-0 and 2024-1272-0 and 2024-1273-0 published on Sunday, September 18th, 2024. Item H, consideration of ratification of proclamation number 2024-37, a proclamation declaring 2024-2025 school year an alcohol-free school year for youth. I, consideration of ratification of modification of agreement between Washington County and the U.S. Forest Service regarding noxious weeds. And J, consideration of renewal of Huntsman Senior Games license agreement for the parking garage use. And that's my motion.
And I will second that very long motion.
Wonderful. A motion and a second as it's in its entirety for the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Wonderful. Well, we have a special guest, which we see almost every other day. But in recognition of Eric Clark, who was announced as the Utah Association of Counties Outstanding Attorney of the Year, we'll have Adam direct that, being VP.
Yeah, so this is the Utah Association of Counties. For anybody who doesn't know that, is the association of all 29 counties in Utah, and then there's each elected office and a few unelected offices have affiliate groups, and so amongst his peers of the all 29 counties, our own county attorney Eric Clark was selected and voted by his peers as the Outstanding County Attorney of the Year, and that was awarded at our annual conference just a couple weeks ago. So we want to make sure we present that to Eric and recognize his great efforts putting bad guys in jail and keeping the rest of us out of jail, and working both at the civil and criminal side. He does a great job, and it's a very well-deserved honor. So congratulations, Eric.
Let's take a picture. Now, Eric, be careful who you take pictures with.
Yeah,
That's right, that's right. Well, very good. See, he's already off to prosecute someone. Okay, having said that, thank you, Devin and team that also give him support. I know it's not just one person at the head that does it all, so thank you. Our next presentation is one we've put off a couple of times. It's a collection of videos that we put together to show a year in review, and this one happens to be on affordable housing. So if we could run number 11 video. Thank you, sir.
As we finish 2023 and look forward to 2024, there's been a lot of reasons to celebrate, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of good things going forward. But also as a county, we have challenges coming our way. And many of you are aware of these challenges. These are challenges that you deal with. One of the challenges that we as county commissioners are very concerned about is that of affordable housing, the way it's impacting you and your families, and also the way that housing is pricing our young people out of the opportunity to live here. We want you to know that this is a complex problem. It's a problem that we as county commissioners are very concerned about. For several years now, we have gathered together a coalition to work on this as we look at different ways that we can solve it. It's not an easy problem to solve. but it's one that we absolutely have to solve. In order to keep our young people here, there's several challenges to it. One is that we live in an area where a lot of our land is not buildable. Most of the land that is buildable belongs to the federal government, so we don't have as much private property in our county as we would like. And we also have a lot of costs and demands that are pushing the price of housing in our county up. One of those that many of you are probably aware of is the short-term rental situation. With over 5,000 short-term rentals in our county alone, think about that. Those are homes that are not necessarily available for people to rent. But we, at the same time, try to find the balance between property rights and also working with our cities and helping have a more diverse portfolio of housing in our area.
This is a difficult issue, and anybody who thinks it's easy to solve does not fully understand the issue. Much of the problem surrounds the cost of inputs. As Commissioner Iverson said, 2/3 of our county is owned by the federal government, which means there's only 1/3 of it that's even closely developable. And much of that is far away from the city centers and where people have the resources of work, school, church, things like that. So when we're talking about, first, a condensed area. Second of all, the proper role of government is not to tell somebody what they can and cannot do with their land, as long as it fits the normal use and with the zoning that exists. And so when somebody has a piece of land that they would like to develop, the proper role of government is not to come in and say, you will sell that at a discount. The price is what the market demands. And any of us would behave the same way. Nobody is going to take a $100,000 or $200,000 loss on a piece of land just because they're really nice. So the cost of land is one of the major inputs driven by supply and demand. The other is the construction cost. The actual cost due to inflation that has gone up way high on lumber and on concrete and on all the things that you have to do to actually build a home. And the third piece being labor, which has also gone through the roof, no pun intended, on the construction side. And so when you add up those three major components, it is very expensive to build a home. And so it's not an easy thing to say, well, let's just make cheap housing or inexpensive housing. It's very difficult to actually achieve an inexpensive result when the cost of the inputs is so high. We also have to acknowledge that all of us play a role in affordable housing. Many people say, you know what, we need attainable housing. We need something where my kids can live, which we all can agree with. I have young children. I want them to be able to live here, near family when they get older, have a job, have a home that they can be proud of and that suits their family well. But many of the solutions that we talk about require people to abandon the NIMBYism or the not in my backyard. I want higher density. I want something that doesn't have to be on an acre of land, but not on my street. I want apartments or condos or duplexes that could be attainable for many young families, but not on my street. They better be on somebody else's street. And so as long as we have people that have that mentality and have that attitude, it's difficult to find solutions because everybody wants to push it off to someone else. And what we need is everybody to realize that they have a role in the solution for attainable housing.
Housing is always going to be a difficult thing to talk about. On the big picture, I've often said, it's almost harder to finish a city than to start one. We're at about that stage as we're running out of land, and of course, we are hedged in, as Commissioner Snow mentioned, by federal lands and others. There's yet another saying, though, that I think people should start to adopt that will help with the NIMBYism and, of course, also the aesthetics that come with housing that's more densely packed. And that is this saying, that design trumps density. I've seen some beautiful homes and smaller, but yet their design is so beautiful, even apartments or condos. We've traveled the world and we've seen beautiful cities that we like. And some of that is because the design is just so incredibly beautiful, even though hundreds of people may live in that city block. It's important for us also to recognize that while we have cities that primarily deal with the housing issues, in as much as the county is literally only 5% of the population and not that much land that we could actually administer housing on. But we also need cities to know that we're working with them because SITLA, State Institutional Trust Lands, has land near them or even inside those city boundaries. There's also federal land and some private land that we can encourage those developers to help partner with cities. And how do they do that? It could be zoning. It could be density issues that follow up on the very issues of housing and how we are going to get more people to bus routes or transportation or schools. All of that has to be considered. We have a beautiful county and we want to preserve it. And we want the people that live here to be able to have children that want to stay here, as we've mentioned. But I can tell you, this isn't going to be solved in a week or a month or even a year. We're continuing ongoing discussion on this issue as others with cities and our partners. Thank you for your time. Ta-da.
Fantastic.
And actually, all those things are moving forward.
Yep, they are.
All right. Well, thank you for those who witnessed that, and we'll accept the award later. Ray, our next thing is the consideration of purchase requests.
Okay, the first one I have is for the Rose Department. This is for a new 2024 Caterpillar loader for $230,000, and then a trade-in on a buyback program for the 2023 for $220,000, which brings our total to $10,000. Now the next one is for the Dixie Center. This is for some recarpeting of the lobby, garden room, and some of the board rooms. This is $355,473.49. The next one is a blanket PO for the kitchen at the jail. This is for food and supplies for the kitchen. And they expect this to get us through the rest of the year for $160,000. The next one is food and supplies for the Search and Rescue Annual Conference for $11,361.85. The next one is for some computers for the Sheriff's Office. There's 46 for the Correctional Department and 14 for the Patrol Department for a total of $61,663.20. The next one is also for the Sheriff's Office. This is actually a renewal for a license. The vendor requires a PO, so we're happy to oblige, but it's got to follow the process. So this one's for $11,820. That was for investigation supplies, by the way. The next one is for emergency services. This is for a disruptor unit with a push lock breach. This is a regional asset for the bomb squad units. This is for $28,346.03. And the final one is for the Hurricane Library sewer repair. This is for $26,900. Unless you want any more details or have any questions, that's it.
Oh, that's good for me.
On that last one, that's really a technology that needs to be adopted more. St. George City has probably hundreds and hundreds of miles that they've used liner on, and it's working out very well. So I'm glad to see that we've done that. So
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase request as approved by Ray, as presented by Ray.
I'll second that motion.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item, number 4, consideration of ordinance number 2024-1274-0, an ordinance expanding the list of species that may be taken while spotlighting.
I'm looking forward to this.
I am too, Commissioners. I'm happy to speak to this item. So the county already has in place an ordinance that allows for spotlighting of certain species under conditions that are stated in the ordinance. Division of Wildlife contacted the county recently and asked that we amend those ordinances to allow for spotlighting of feral pigs. And this is a new topic for me, Commissioners. I've done a little bit of research on this to get up on this. But feral pigs are an invasive species. They're extremely destructive. And as I understand it, they haven't been a problem in Utah quite yet. But the state is trying to get ahead of this problem and just try to address this issue if it does come to our doorstep. And so this ordinance would make it easier to address that problem. And actually, I see that Kevin is here, and if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Kevin could speak more to this issue. As I said, feral pigs are well outside of my wheelhouse.
Oink.
Thank you, Devin, and for the opportunity to speak to this. First, it's nice to live in a place where I can make a phone call and make a request like this, and a county can look at it and do their due diligence, and within a short amount of time, we're here with an ordinance change, and that's great, and I'm very happy that we've gone that way. Let me speak a little bit to why we asked the county to do this. And I want to talk both, make it clear why we didn't and why we did. This is not a request to allow for a recreational opportunity, a hunting opportunity. That's not what we're trying to do here. Our objective, both from the Division of Wildlife and the Utah Department of Agriculture, is to eradicate any feral pigs that get into the state and then prevent establishment of any populations, as Devin said, extremely destructive to croplands, to wildlife habitat, to everything else. States like Missouri and Texas that are dealing with this issue are spending tens to hundreds of millions of dollars a year to deal with it. And so this is something that will make a small impact on what could be a larger problem. We're working on it at a much larger scale as well with the legislature to make sure that we have laws on the books that don't allow it to turn into an industry where people are trying to establish feral pig populations for hunting. That's already in the Department of Ag Code. We're working with Representatives Snyder to make sure that that's part of the wildlife code as well, and transportation of animals for that purpose and several other things. So I appreciate the county doing this. There'll be other issues, be other efforts. Devin mentioned before it gets established, we do have a few feral pigs that we're aware of in Washington County right now that have come up out of the Virgin River Gorge. And we've removed some of them. We will be getting the Department of Ag, we're working with the Department of Ag and Wildlife Services to get down into that area and try to clean up anything that's there. And then we'll be working with Arizona to see if we can push that population back down the gorge as well at the same time to prevent them from getting established in Utah. So I appreciate the county acting on this as quickly as they did. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to respond to them.
So is there a population down by Mesquite and Bunkerville down there? I thought I heard somebody saying this.
I don't know. I know that there's some that are established in the gorge. How far outside of the gorge south of there down into that area, I'm not sure. But I would guess along the Virgin River corridor there, that's where they're moving, is along that river corridor. And so I would not be at all surprised if they're down through Mesquite and Bunkerville and that country as well.
Well, certainly we don't want somebody coming up and saying, oh, there's an opportunity to plant them so we can hunt them.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear and on the record that that's not what this is about. This is not an opportunity to create a recreational hunting opportunity. This is a request to help us prevent an invasive species from becoming established and causing damage in our state, both to private and public lands.
Yeah, no TRT opportunity.
I have one question.
Oh, go ahead.
Did somebody bring raccoons in? Because I don't remember raccoons when I was a kid, and I'd like to find that person.
Raccoons have been in the state.
I'd like to spotlight that person.
For a long, long time.
Can we spotlight raccoons? Can we add that to our list?
Yes, they are part of that spotlighting ordinance.
How about city limits? Can we do it? Off the top of my trash can?
So,
No.
Raccoons aren't native to Utah, but they have been here for a long time. And how they got here, there's lots of conjecture and nobody really knows, but they're well established now.
Daniel Boone.
So,
Well,
We must have
Kevin,
been better spotlighters when I was a kid, because there weren't as many. So-
Kevin, as I said on the phone when you called me originally, anytime DNR needs some help with trigger control, if you're going to go out, just give me a call. I'd love to go out and help do what I can in my community
Well,
and help eradicate this horrible invasive population, because I do think it would be recreational for me to do so and therapeutic.
it may be, and you don't need us. Grab your sheriff and.
Oh, we've already talked to Sheriff
and go-
Brooksby.
and
And
go-
the SWAT team, long guns will be out practicing on
Okay.
moving targets.
Yeah, and so, I appreciate, again, just appreciation to be able to make a phone call with an issue that's come to my attention, and literally that, I called Commissioner Snow 6 days ago on last Wednesday, and here we are.
We don't mess around here in Washington
Yeah,
County.
we
We
think
try and be,
solid waste.
America's county shows the rest of the
It-
counties in Utah how to do it.
Right, and this happens across, it's just an example of government the way it should be, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
We have friends in Texas, he has a big spread, goes down to a river, and he says between the armadillos and the feral pigs, he could sit on the back porch and shoot all night.
Yeah.
It's just an invasion
And
like
not put
crazy.
it in, they're,
Do they have a spotlighting ordinance? Does he need me to go?
Yeah.
Where is he? What's his number?
Dallas, let's go. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Kevin.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-1274-0, expanding the list of species that may be taken while spotlighting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes, thank you. Consideration number 5 of ordinance number 2024-1275-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located approximately 1400 East, 2000 South in Springdale from the OSC 20 zone, open space conservation 20 acre minimum lot size, and the OST 20 zone, open space transition 20 acre minimum lot size, to the PDSBOZ, Plan Development Scenic Byway Overlay Zone, hereinafter fully described in this ordinance. Applicant is the Parunaweep Canyon LLC, AKA Trees Ranch. Could you make sure that we modify that to say that we're not rezoning something in Springdale?
Yeah, it's adjacent to.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, commissioners, there's kind of some bleed over between item number 5 and 6. Try to do it in an orderly manner. There's a PD development, and I'll just quickly read just the purpose of the PD development. And this is in our code. The overall purpose of the PD zone is to allow and encourage applicant flexibility and creativity in design and development of comprehensively planned projects. The specific purpose and intent of the planned development zone regulations are to provide for greater capability with surrounding land uses within Washington County, to allow for more efficient and creative site design for specific properties, and to encourage property owners to develop master plans of their total land while still allowing for phased development. That's what we have here. The Trees Ranch, many people know where that is. You can see it on the map. It's located before you enter into Springdale, just on the south side of Springdale. On the highway, they have approximately 1,960 acres that are highlighted in red. You can see that there are 2 different zones there. The light green with the dashed lines is the open space transition 20 acre, and then the just plain green without the stripes is OSC, which is open space conservation. To be able to do any development on this property, they need to go through a zone change. And this, you can see the purple line that's going around this project. That is the boundary line for the Scenic Byway Overlay Zone. And so due to the proximity to Zion National Park, there's some extra regulations and aesthetic concerns with projects that are developed along our scenic byway. So the project, there are numerous parcels there. I believe there's about 11 or 12 of them, and they equal the 1,960 acres. They're proposing to rezone it to SBOZ. And the zone change is the first step or the first part of the process for approval. Everything is dependent upon the other. So you have the zone change, you have the project plan, and you have a development agreement. What we have is we have an ordinance before you to approve the zone change for the project. And then I can go through the project plan, if you would like, after you make a motion on the zone change. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. It did go through the Planning Commission. There was a properly noticed public hearing, and we've received input, and a lot of the input that we received was favorable about the type of development that's being put in here.
What was the recommendation from the Planning Commission?
The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve ordinance 2024-1275-0, rezoning a certain portion of Washington County located approximately 1400 East, 2000 South, near Springdale, not in Springdale, adjacent to, from the OSC 20 zone, which is open space conservation 20 acre minimum lot size, and OST 20 zone, which is open space transition 20 acre minimum lot size, to the PD SBOZ full planned development scenic byway overlay zone, hereinafter fully described in the ordinance. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Scott, our next item, you're also stay there. Consideration of resolution number R 2024-3360, a resolution approving the PDSBOZ project plan and development agreement for Trees Ranch, the applicant Paranawik Canyon LLC.
So I'll talk on the project plan, and then Victoria will talk on the development agreement. So the one thing different with the PD zone versus just a standard rezone to commercial or maybe an R110 or ag zone is that with the PD, with that flexibility, the project is tied to the approval of that zone. And so if someone was coming in and doing on any PD, if someone came in, got approval for a PD for a trailer park, and then someone else came in and wanted to get it, and they wanted to change it, they would have to go through a new process and rezone it to a PD for whatever development they wanted to do. And so the project plan, there's a lot of details that need to be worked out with the project plan. And you can see here, with their total acreage of the 1900, there's going to be 75 transient units and 19 non-transient units. The transient units will include 50 freestanding hotel rooms and up to 25 private residents for sale on a future date. One of the things, and we'll go through the pictures here in a second, is we're kind of calling this a horizontal hotel. It's like playing Legos or whatever, and you take, rather than just having a hotel in one building, it's a resort, and the individual units are separated and spread out throughout the development. The developer, property owner has taken a real interest and has spent a lot of time and money to make sure that the design and the aesthetics of the project, that it's not an eyesore, that it blends in with the natural landscape around there. There's a significant amount of open space associated with this development of the overall acreage. There's pretty much 80 acres per unit that's going to be put in. So that's a very low density development. You know, I think it could be developed in a completely different way. And I think the purpose and the intent of the PD zone is being met with this project. Let's go ahead and just go through some of the pictures real quick. You can see there's, let's go to the next one. Next one. Okay, so here is design. This is a rendition, but I'll say it's more than a rendition. It's not just they took an aerial and plopped some units in the middle there. They actually went out and surveyed every tree and rock on the property, and where those units are placed in the picture is where they will be. And let's go ahead and go to the next one. You can see that they're incorporating the natural landscape into the development and to the units. And we'll just go through some of these pictures to show you what the project will look like. And I can go into more detail about the design if you'd like, but part of with the zone change and with the PD development, we have what we call the big five. We have fire, power, sewer, water, and transportation, roads. And they have checked all those boxes. Hurricane Valley Fire has reviewed the plans and has given their feedback, and it meets that. Rocky Mountain Power has given a will serve letter that they will provide the water. Ash Creek Special Power, sorry. Ash Creek Special Service District will be the body of politic for managing the wastewater here. And with the water, they've received approval from DEQ, and there will be an on-site well and a 400,000 gallon tank for storage. With developments such as this, you need to find the balance with the transportation. You don't want to pave 4-lane, 5-lane road going through the whole development, then have street lights, curb gutter, and sidewalk. It's kind of it defeats the purpose of the look and feel that they're trying to get with this development. So there are requirements that when there is a slope that is greater than percentage, 10%, that they pave that slope so that, if there was a need for emergency vehicles to get in, they wouldn't have an issue traversing the roadways and the land. And I can go into more detail if you'd like, but the Planning Commission reviewed the project plan and unanimously recommended approval of it, tied with the zone change.
I think this has been a pretty thorough process, Scott, so thank you.
Yeah. Unless you have questions for Scott about the project plan, I can breeze through the development agreement next.
I'm good, thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
So this entire project has 3 components. The first one was the ordinance related to the zone change, where you're changing the zoning on the property from open space, various zones there, to PD SBOZ, Scenic Byway Overlay Zone. As we all know, a PD zone is a specific development zone, and you must develop to the project plan. So the project plan that Scott just explained is a governing document that covers how they're going to develop inside the property. The third component is agreed upon development agreement. It's also concurrently reviewed with other 2 items, and they're all interrelated. If you don't like the development agreement, if we don't reach a signed development agreement at the end, then the zoning goes away and the approval for the project plan also goes away. So they're all interrelated, and that's set forth in the ordinance and also in the resolution that's before you next. So we were able to work through all of our major problems in the development agreement. We have what we call today's proposed final draft. Because of the press of time, no one was able to fully proofread it. So we will have some maybe typographical type of changes after today. And the exhibits won't be attached to the development agreement. They're too long. They will be in the project plan. So in the development agreement, we'll have a list of the exhibits, but we won't attach them. I want to go over just a few of the major issues in the development agreement that were resolved and how we resolved them, so you'll know what some basic terms are. The first one that's important is open space. The developer always wanted this development to appear very open and to keep a lot of the open space pristine. There's lots of details in the project plan and the development agreement related to open space. In the development agreement, we settled on open space that's undeveloped with no structures of at least 1,200 acres. The other parts might be disturbed. The other parts of the open space in the project plan might be disturbed. There's lots of farmland there. That would be considered disturbed. No structures, but there's disturbed land. It's not pristine open space. So some of the open space will be undeveloped with no structures, and others might have some structures on it listed in the project plan. Roads were very much an issue in this case. It took a lot of tweaking and a lot of different iterations in order to get to the roadway design that they have. It's very unusual to only have one access for such a large commercial project. However, it's permitted in the Scenic Byway Overlay Zone, and it's only permitted in very specific circumstances where it's very difficult to get a different governmental agency approvals for another bridge. We felt comfortable after looking at the project and after some iterations in our code where emergency helipads provided, because we don't have two accesses to a commercial project. Loop roads are required so that emergency vehicles can loop through the project. It took quite a lot of work, but we were able to get there. They also have private roads, private water, private sewer, private utilities, except for power. Well, that'll be private too, but it'll be Rocky Mountain Power, I believe. But the county will not have to own or control the infrastructure or the utilities. So that's a bonus to the county. You get development, you get tax revenue from development, but we don't have a lot of infrastructure that we have to maintain. They are given a vested density, and Scott mentioned that inside the development agreement, the vested density matches the project plan, which is the 50 freestanding, and some are attached, hotel units, the 75 transient rental dwelling units, and then the 19 non-transient rental single-family dwelling houses. So all of that's very important to the developer to have vested density spelled out. So that's in there. The Zion Corridor Trail was very important to the county. We were able, even with some last-minute changes, I think, to get the vital connection that we are interested in having so that we can connect our metropolitan areas to Zion National Park and to that Zion Corridor Trail. The developer, how the development agreement ended up is the developer is working with Springdale to to grant a perpetual public easement to the public for that trail along the front area of the property. And we were able, if the Springdale agreement doesn't work out, then we stand in their shoes and could accept the easement in our favor for perpetual public easement for the trail. That trail is on our master plan, I believe. From Leslie and all her hard work, we have some funding for that trail. And I think we were able to get to reasonable solutions for the trail provisions in the development agreement. The other important thing that's very important to the county and to the developer is the term of the agreement. We started out with a 15-year term. They negotiated 15-year term, and then we talked about a 5-year extension. The developer's choice decided they wanted a 20-year term, no extensions. So the vested density will terminate at the end of the term, but they'll be vested in whatever density is built. So if they've built all the hotels, but all the hotel rooms, but none of the other stuff, they're vested in that density at the end of the 20-year term. Development agreements that are endless and never end are never in the county's best interest. They're never in the city's best interest. And just from experience, the reason why is because no one developed to a plan that was approved 20 years ago. It just doesn't happen. If it's not going to be built in 20 years, they need to come back in and get approval for a new plan. because it's not going to happen. We also were able to negotiate default provisions and a termination clause if there's a material default. And again, if it's terminated or if the term of the agreement ends, they're still vested in the built density on the project. Those are the major issues in the development agreement, the major provisions that you might be interested in. It is only about 18 pages long of text, so it's really a quick read if you want to read the complete development agreement. I know that Devin Snow has a copy, and we can make that also available to all of you. Again, there will be...
I would like to read that,
Yeah.
every word.
Okay.
No.
Well,
No,
there's...
we have great legal counsel on this, so.
So the first thing that you decided was a legislative decision to rezone the property to PD SVOC. The second decision you have is consideration of the resolution, and the resolution are the two governing documents for the whole project. One is the project plan, and the other is the development agreement. And so that's the request, is consideration of the resolution approving the project plan and development agreement.
You put in a ton of work there to get that together, and the development agreement and the project plan have to coincide. I get that, and it's to our understanding that it's been a mutual acceptance from the county and the developer.
Yes, the last minute tweaks were made about 2:40 this afternoon. And I think the only thing, we do need to proofread, like I said, make sure we got the things stricken, and the things added. But once we do any minor typographical errors from that process, we'll be ready
So
for...
there's no subject twos, it's just a matter of...
Nothing substantive is left.
All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion we adopt Resolution R-2024-3360, a resolution approving the PD SBOZ project plan and development agreement for Trees Ranch applicant Pahrump Canyon LLC.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next item is consideration of resolution number R-2024-3361, a resolution approving an adjustment of 2024 property taxes for certain parcels owned by Rural Housing Development Corporation, DBA Self-Help Homes.
Commissioners, you have a request for you. This is for a reduction of property taxes for a property owner of, it's known as Self-Help Homes or Rural Housing. State law allows the county commission to reduce property taxes when doing so is in the best human interests and in the interest of the state and the county. Self-Help Homes provides affordable housing to low-income families through federally funded programs and sweat equity programs. This property owner has numerous ongoing and planned projects and has asked for a property tax reduction on its developments in southern Utah that have not been sold yet. So Commissioners, there are three projects that we're talking about. So there's Hurricane Heights, which has about 20 income qualified lots left. They've sold several already. That's what's left, is 20 more. So that's what the request is about, those 20 lots that have not been sold yet. The second is Sage Point in Hurricane, another development that is planned for 56 lots, although right now it's not been subdivided. It's raw ground at this point, as I understand. And then there's a Laverican lot. Again, this is raw ground. It has not been subdivided yet, although I understand it's close. This is a total of 36 planned lots there. So what this is a request that would cover about 112 income qualified lots. If you were to grant the request, the property taxes for 2024 would be reduced to zero in all of these developments. So last meeting, Commissioners, you had some questions about the timing on these developments, and staff invited Brad Bishop, who's the Executive Director of Self-Help Homes, and he would be best to answer some of the questions you were having about kind of the timing on those three projects. So if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I would invite Brad to speak to those questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So again, Brad Bishop, Executive Director of Self-Help Homes. I can briefly kind of cover those three projects if that helps, just kind of give an overview. And fortunately, on the Hurricane Heights, we were able to sell 9 lots on Friday of this last week. They'll be putting in permits this week. And this is a sweat equity project where we group up to 10 families together and they build each other's homes under direction of one of our construction supervisors. The first 2 phases, I just drove through it. Talked today about good design and for affordable housing, and I'd invite you all to drive through there today. They're beautiful. They're already getting ready for Halloween, and it's a good looking subdivision there. And so, and maybe just an update on our federal government this last year with the Inflation Reduction Act funding for 2024. Last year they did 150 homes. This year they only had funding for 32. So and this is for 9 groups across the state. So we're very happy that we're able to get some end of the year fiscal funding to close. We have about 40 families waiting right now, and that first group have been waiting for about a year to close. So that is that Hurricane Heights. We'll do another group hopefully in the spring. We've already got several of those applications going, and we'll wait for those. The Sage Point Phase 5, we've submitted. When we purchased it, it was a platted subdivision. It had already lapsed with the city. It had a 2-year timeline. We purchased it. It's been in the construction drawings have been submitted for 3 months now. Just met with the city yesterday with our engineer, talked for about 2.5 hours trying to resolve the water line, kind of the main line feeding the whole city there, and they're just wanting to make sure that is not totally disturbed. But that, we have a contractor already picked out for that. Hope to see dirt moving in the next 30 to 60 days for that project. There is a phase 6 of about 11 lots that still has to go through the entitlement. But we're trying to sell lots to develop the next project and so forth. So that's where we are on that line. And then the third project in La Verkin, we were able to pick up. We are trying to get a secondary access. There's currently the city allows for a cul-de-sac. They don't prefer that. They like to see a street go actually through this property. So working on that secondary access, and anyways, that would be the third project to be phased with us. So glad to see that video in the beginning of affordable housing. It is time consuming, especially taking it through all the steps to get it to a final subdivision and working with the federal government to fund this program, but excited to do it. We've now been doing it for about 8 years here. I've done several projects during Tocqueville, La Verkin, and Hurricane, and hope to continue to do so.
So I just had a couple questions or comments. Obviously, this is about the 3rd or 4th year or more that we've been asked, that I remember, that we've been asked to waive the taxes. And of course, that's something that whenever we do it, it's a big, it sets a precedence that we get very nervous about. And given the fact that we need all of these lots to be developed as quickly as possible. And I remember 5 County kind of kicked this out of their wheelhouse. I don't agree with that concept. It happened because no other county was benefiting but Washington County, and because we have this dynamic in the 5 counties. Some of the commissioners just decided they'd boot it out, and I think that's when you picked it up. And I didn't know the history before then. I think there was a little bit of history. I will tell you on the La Verkin property, it would be very easy for you just to close the gate and get a local farmer to put that into ag, and your property tax would be almost nil anyway. And so I'd encourage that on the La Verkin property until you're ready to develop. I'm fairly familiar with that property, and I know it's been used for ag before, and it'd be really easy for you guys to get that back in ag if it's not in ag now. So, and that would put your property tax at almost nothing, so you'd have almost no holding cost. The challenge is I just think we acknowledge the mission, or at least I do. I'm not speaking for the 2 commissioners. But we want to somehow kind of motivate the development of these lots as quickly as possible, because I know you're based out of Provo and you got a lot going on. It's a big state, and like you said, so I have another question. Given the fact that self-help in itself, I mean, I've known some families that have benefited from your program, and it seems to be a good program. Like, those that get involved in it seem to stay in these homes longer. They don't flip them. I think, but yet they still build equity. But it's a lot of work, right? Literally. And it's probably a lot of work to administer and manage. You mentioned that the federal government, there's not as much funding on it. Is there other programs? Is this the only thing you do, is self-help, the sweat equity component, or do you do other types of housing that this property could be looked at if you couldn't move fast enough? In other words, I don't want to be here every single year waiving property tax when I have families across this county, young families that need homes today, so.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I think if you watch your own video there, I think you explained it pretty good. The bigger hurdles we have is land costs, land development costs, if you want to expand that, bonding for those land costs. I mean, it really, when you're talking millions of dollars to hold, to develop, and move from project to project, that's the trick that we're trying to balance, as well as working with the federal government to sell lots so we can roll that capital into the next project. So our history too, just a little bit of information. So I worked for the Housing Authority of Utah County back in 1996 when County Commissioner Governor Herbert was on that commission. So we were created back in 99 for that affordable housing, to work with federal programs, including the county there. We're in Juab County, we're in Washington County, and then Wasatch County. And you're right, there was a nonprofit here, Color Country, that ran the project program for several years until the recession. The Five County Association of Governments took it over for 3 years. I don't think housing was their forte, I guess, and so they asked us to come in, and it's taken time to establish, to get into, to purchase land. We bought those parcels because they were open. It's hard today to find anything anywhere. It's very difficult, so we've used federal funds again to purchase. If we had all the capital in the world, we would develop it today, as you suggest. We do other things besides single family. We do multifamily. I think cities and neighbors have pretty much expressed that. I think our program has been one of those that fits in all communities, or the most highly desirable is to have single family, to have those opportunities for families to get at their own equity. You've talked about the benefits there of the sweat equity, and having families being able to move in and own and get out of that rental cycle, establish families, and be able to get into it. So I don't know how to go any faster. I will be here every year. Utah County actually suggested we take it through the tax commission to establish that it is a vital resource. There's some boundaries around that. And we're just trying to do the best we can with what we got.
Did Utah County waive your taxes?
Yes, they did. So did UABS, and so did Wasatch.
And we have in the past.
And actually, we haven't been exempted here at all. We've had them waived. We've gone through your process. We apply for exemption every year. We get denied, so we go through this administrative process. So we'd love to go through, the normal way, but if we go through this way, we'll take it any way you guys want to do it. So. Well,
I think in the past you've ended up in we haven't had you come here in person to explain.
No, it actually worked out really well today. Met with several of the nonprofits today in a meeting, so I thought it would be nicer to have a face in front of you instead of just on the screen. So.
Now, on the Laverton property, are you opposed to just putting that into Greenbelt and keeping that in farmland until you're ready to go?
You know what, I can talk to my land developer, or we have somebody on staff that do the development. There is a lot of processing, and I think we took it out of ag, if I remember correctly. And there is a tax difference in that. But the goal is to move it into a subdivision, so to make the effort to go to ag, I don't know where it takes us through that process with
Well,
the
you need
city
to
and having the
do,
zoning.
I think
for
what
that.
you need to do is just get somebody to irrigate and close the gate.
Yeah,
So,
okay. If you have somebody, we have parcels that are, we just allow other farms to take care of it. you know?
your parcels in Hurricane are all, they're not ag land at all, you know, at least if I know where they're at.
Yeah, the
which I think
Laverton one
they
is
do.
definitely an ag piece there.
Yeah, so I would,
Or-
and that
or-
would knock your taxes down to literally under $100 probably. For the, you have 12 acres there in Laverton, right? Is that a 12-acre piece?
It's around that,
Similar,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, about 36 lots.
So I'll piggyback off of Commissioner Iverson's questions a little bit. So I've actually been at I've worked on your development twice, once with,
Awesome, thank you.
with Mr. Webster in the back row there, with Congressman Stewart. We had him out and we swung the hammer, and actually he did. I carried boards. That was my job. He swung the
Remember
hammer
that,
and,
yeah.
and actually used the nail gun, and I was carrying sheets of plywood. But, so I commend the mission. I think it's a good thing. And for the families that you benefit, you know, obviously we get to work, I think, on 3 homes that night, that were there, the homeowners, the families that were building them, right? And so hearing them put in that sweat equity, what they were trying to do, again, I commend you. I think it's a great thing for them, in a way to try and help lower the cost of housing somewhat, right?
Right.
It's not a free house, but it's cheaper. The question, though, is how long do we shift that tax? How long do the people, the citizens, the taxpayers of Washington County say, hey, we want to take on a little bit additional burden? Because the bills have to be paid, right? The roads got to be paved and everything. The bills have to be paid. So if we exempt you and we exempt somebody else, that burden just goes to everybody else. The bills don't come down with everybody we exempt. Otherwise, we would exempt everyone and there'd just be no bills, right? And so, how long, when you say it's gonna, we're gonna be back here year after year, and I get it, because the state law, Devin, as you just read, I mean, there's, land can be exempted when it's being used for charitable purpose. Yours is difficult because it has to be held in order to be used for the charitable purpose, but until you're building a house, it's not being used for the purpose, it's being held to someday be used for the purpose, right? So that's kind of where we find ourselves in this little bit of a tricky area, which you obviously already understand. So I guess my question is, how long do you expect that it's going to be vacant for each piece of property? I mean, you say we'll be back here every year on the same piece of property? Do you expect, there's obviously plenty of demand right now. Do you face additional hurdles that the average developer doesn't face? Or is it just the normal development hurdles and you're just a slightly different animal, but the same basic process?
So to answer that last question, no, we're the same as any other developer taking it through. We meet the same obstacles. What maybe they don't have is the federal side of requirements that we have. The money we use to purchase the land, the money we use to develop and or for the families to get their financing for that. Now, the first 2 projects we described, they're already going to be under construction this year. So Hurricane Heights starting in as soon as the permits are issued by the city. The other one in Hurricane will be under construction, and then should be under construction in the next 60 days. Again, the contractor's been selected. It'll be pushed out. The Laverton piece probably is going to be the next one in the next, the earliest in the next year from now, we'd be able to do that. And so, about 2 years on that one.
Okay. And what are the federal requirements that you have? Is it reporting requirements? You're talking about how money is spent, is it?
So, yeah, we work with a lot of HUD programs. Counties probably might be familiar with Home and CDBG. The funds that we're using here, they're called SHOP funds. It's a federal program that's distributed through a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. Habitat for Humanity accesses these funds. It's called Self-Help Homeownership Opportunity Program, SHOP for the acronym. And basically, those are leveraged loans that eventually will be forgiven to us to be restricted toward affordable developments. So we use those funds to purchase and develop the land. Here we try not to absorb other agencies that use those CDBG in homes. So we've tried to not go that direction because there is a lot of need for that for example, the Cedar City Housing Authority, St. George Housing Authority. And so we've been focusing more on those SHOP dollars. And anyways, they do have requirements. They have sweat equity requirements through programs like ours. There are time periods on those funds within 3 to 5 years as well. So we're trying to meet the county's timelines, the federal timelines, along with federal budgets, and then the normal developer city, county development hurdles that everybody has to go through.
Okay. And then the last question is, does Self-Help Homes generate revenue? I mean, you're nonprofit.
100%.
Right?
100%.
But there's a lot of nonprofits that make a lot of money. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying, is this a purely philanthropic,
Yeah.
just
So
labor of love, or is there
I-
personal profitability there?
I can say that 99% plus is strictly for affordable housing. Those that are earning less than 80% of their median income. The majority of what we do is this federal self-help housing program. We have done other things like tax credits for multifamily in partnership with housing authorities up in Utah County. We partner with the Wasatch County Housing Authority also with land development for affordable housing as well. But strictly speaking, everything we do is for that. We do, any profit we do have, in fact, you can go to our financials. We either have a lot of cash, and then the next year you'll see a lot of land and improvements. And that's our balance sheet. It goes up and down. And so when we started back in 1999, we started with 6 lots. Today we have about 300 lots in 4 different counties, and they're all restricted with these federal funds. We don't go out and sell it to other people. So anyways, that's how we operate. And any profit, so-called profit, goes back into the mission. That's the tax status. It doesn't go into investors or it doesn't go into my pocketbook. I'm overseen by a volunteer board. So anyways, that's how the nonprofit's set up. We have a lot of people watching our books. We get state funding, we get federal funding, we get county funding. Anyways.
This will be the last question. How long have you owned these properties?
So I know the Hurricane Heights, in fact, I went back to the history on that. We purchased that in 2019. They were not exempted that year. 2020 is the year we developed the first 2 phases. We did get those waived on that year. During that development process of the subdivision in 21, we ended up doing the first, there was 23 lots, and of those 23 lots, we had 16, I believe, of those went through the self-help program. It was a little bit different, where we purchased this from a developer that we would develop the land as long as we were able to get some affordability out of those lots. The other 2 parcels, I don't have the exact timelines. We bought them pretty close together within the last 2, give or take 2 years. Again, a lot of those are going through those processes. This year, kind of a dead year as far as being able to do our self-help program because of the cuts that the federal government had this year on our loans. But hopefully 2025 will be a better year for that, and we're off to a good start. So.
Okay. Is there a motion or any other discussion? Devin, you have any follow-up?
I don't, just that, you know, your options are, you could have a motion to approve, motion to deny, or table if you feel like you need more time to study or look into it.
I guess my one concern, or my one is maybe it's back to that ag land in Laverton. I think very quickly you could do a lease with a farmer. They'd pay your taxes. Just keep it in Greenbelt. That way it's not a fire hazard or anything. I know you hope that it'll be developed in a year. I know that there's a reason the property hasn't been developed now. It's a chunk of property, and some reason the city didn't plan a road through the backside of it. That's,
You're familiar with it then?
yeah, I am familiar with
So,
it.
Yep.
And unfortunately, they should have been a little more foresighted, because it should have had a road planned through the middle of it, but it doesn't. So,
We agree.
So somehow you're kind of boxed in there, and that really cuts down into the utility-ness of the whole lot if you can't get that access through the back. And I just worry that if we waive the taxes, you being up there, up north, what's now pasture land will just become a fire hazard with houses all around it. So I'd prefer that if I make a motion here that we waive the taxes on all of the Hurricane parcels that I know don't have the same possibility. And frankly, I could find some farmers you could call and just do an agreement with them, and you'd probably have it all taken care of. It's a little more work, but I think it's better for the overall
Again, I don't know the development process to go into Greenbelt, back out to, because we do still have to take it through the city. There are some zoning requirements before we can.
The
put it in
Greenbelt
an
process
application.
is fairly simple.
The Greenbelt is, but the subdivision process is
Yeah,
what the city is.
So what I'd prefer is that we not waive the taxes on that piece, and then you just get a farmer to irrigate it and take care of it for you, and they can pay your taxes on it. That's my preference. So the other ones, I mean, they're lots. Most of these are lots, right? Most of these are ready to move dirt on. A lot of them are. And then you have a piece of raw land.
The first ground is subdivided and built. The second is going to start with improvements this year. And the third is the Laverton
Yeah.
piece that will as early as a year from now.
So would that be a reasonable compromise?
Again, I don't know the process. As I recall, I'm on that piece, and I can get, if you'd like to table it, we can bring it back and go through that process. I don't think it's as easy as, might be easy to go into Greenbelt, but to take it then to the city, it has to be in the correct,
Zone.
well, it's
You haven't
already
platted-
zoned.
you
It's
haven't-
already zoned, but if it's in
Yeah.
Greenbelt, it needs to be taken out of Greenbelt. Anyways, I can
Well,
get that,
the
I can get the
challenge,
answers
the
for that.
challenge would be is that you would have to come back and ask that we waive the rollback taxes for you. You know, but either way, you're asking us to waive taxes today.
So my preference would be to continue it as we've been doing it, just in bringing it to the commission. We're not seeing more land available.
Yeah.
We're hoping that the county can see and attest to the difficulty of doing affordable housing, period.
Yeah, we
And
do see
this
the
is
challenge.
one way to contribute to that. So, from my point of view.
Okay?
Well, I see, I'm not opposed. You know, it's just, and the reason we wanted you here is just to kind of help motivate you on your mission, right? It's kind of like, we figure if we,
I've got about 300 families that are motivating me right now to get, they're just as anxious to build their homes.
well, then we're just
Yeah.
kind of a part of that
Yeah, 100%.
stress level of yours, right?
But that's a good pressure, because it's fun to be able to help them out, so it's a good pressure.
Okay, well.
Well, I'm fine with making this motion. I don't know where the rest of my commissioners are at on this, but I'd make a motion that we approve the adjustments for the 2024 property taxes for certain parcels owned by Rural Housing Development Corporation, DBA Self-Help Homes. And I guess that's my motion. I would encourage you to keep that property in the Laverton farmed. Just
Send me
because
some
I think
numbers.
you take on liability if you don't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you want to leave a card, I'll find a farmer for you.
Mr. Iverson, do you want to table just the Birkin one, or you want to give all?
Overall, we're talking about, if it goes into Greenbelt, it'll be $100 a year anyway. I'm fine with the motion as it stands, as long as I have a verbal agreement that you guys will find a farmer for that, so.
I'm not going to confirm that we'll get that, but we'll definitely be open to it.
We'll
But
try.
We do that with other parcels.
Because I
where we
suspect
have
you'll be
that.
back here next year asking for us to waive the taxes.
Well, potentially, yes.
I'm going to guess that if you try, I'd bring some evidence next year that you tried.
Yeah.
Because Commissioner Iverson's got a really good memory.
Because I'll still be here, and we'll have this conversation.
I'm sure we're recorded, so.
I will second it, but to add that, one more log on that fire of motivation there, I don't, just speaking for me personally, I don't think that it's fair to always shift the burden, even on good projects that I fully support, to the rest of the taxpayers in Washington County. So I don't know that every year I'm going to be a yes vote. I would be this year, so I'm seconding the motion.
Okay.
I think that indicates where my vote would be here in about 2 seconds. But I would look to keep things in Greenbelt that you may have until you're ready to develop. And I don't want to just sit, and I'm not saying that you're doing this maliciously or
Right.
lazily or anything, but I don't think sitting on parcels for 10, 15 years, some long period of time is fair to the rest of the taxpayers that they don't get to defer their taxes or waive them forever, right? Even in good, honorable mission circumstances.
Well, and let's clarify, this is not
No, I understand.
10, 15 years.
I understand.
Okay.
But it could be, right? If you're going to be back here next year, there's nothing legally that's going to stop you from doing it. It could be 8 years, 6 years, something down the line. I don't think you're going to be in that case. I'm just telling you in advance, being very honest and transparent with you. I wouldn't be a yes vote for that one.
And other commissioners agree with you. So
Okay.
it's not
So
the
I-
first time. So thank you.
I second the motion then, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion and a second as read into the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hey, thank you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Item number 8, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3362, resolution approving a service agreement with FirstCom for phone services at the Dixie Center. Jared S., you have 30 seconds.
Good afternoon, County Commissioners. I'm Jared Stevenson representing the Dixie Center. This is a pretty easy one. Our current service provider for our phones, they have a third-party contract with somebody that helps with the infrastructure. Their agreement has changed, so our bills have gone through the roof. And IT has encouraged us to change to FirstCom, and it'll actually lower the bills even from what our previous agreement was, so it's a good decision.
That is a no-brainer. Thank you so much.
This saves the taxpayers money?
Absolutely.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3362, a resolution approving a service agreement with FirstCom for phone service at Dixie Center.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Our next item, 9, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3363, a resolution approving an amendment to the agreement to grant a conservation easement and partially release a conservation easement in Confluence Park.
Commissioners, you've seen this item a couple times now. Back in 2022, county entered into a land exchange agreement that would add about 20 acres of property to Confluence Park in exchange for approximately 1.5 acres of land. Part of that requires certain processes with the state that have taken some time, more time than anyone anticipated, and so this amendment would extend the time that would be allowable under that agreement for those processes to finish out.
Very good.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3363, approving an amendment to the agreement to grant a conservation easement and partially release a conservation easement in Confluence Park.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 10, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3364, resolution ratifying a modification to a grant agreement with the Forest Service for the Spring Hollow Mountain Bike Trails. Leslie.
Hello, Commissioners. So this is to add additional funds as far as cash from the Forest Service to the county to go towards developing the trailhead and toilet for the Spring Hollow mountain bike trails.
Well, you've been working hard on this and shown your cooperation between the Forest Service, ourselves, and that agreement. Are you happy with this agreement?
I am. It actually brings more cash to the project.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3364, resolution ratifying a modification to the grant agreement with the Forest Service for Spring Hollow Mountain Trails, bike trails.
And I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Items 11 and 12 deal with you, Leslie. Item 11, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3365, a resolution approving an amendment to a trail construction agreement for Phase 2 of the Spring Hollow Mountain Bike Trail System.
Yes, so we have a trail construction agreement with Ptarmigan Trails. They've been building the majority of the miles so far, and due to some of the costs being lower than initially planned, we have the funds to add a couple more miles of trails, so this amends the contract with Ptarmigan Trails for them to do that construction.
No, that's nice.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R-2024-3365, approving an amendment to a trail construction agreement for Phase 2 of the Spring Hollow Mountain Bike Trail System.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 12, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3366, resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County and Washington City for tourism tax funding to assist in the development of multiple facilities in Washington City.
So this agreement has a combination of TRT and TRCC funds approved by the Tourism Advisory Board to go to Washington City for 4 projects, and we meshed them all together into one agreement, and that's for Cummington Home expansion, old gym renovation, to build a portion of the Mill Creek Trail, and towards finishing up the Grapevine Trailhead.
Very good. Well, I'd like to make a motion that has to do with my historical homeland, Washington City. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3366, a resolution approving an interlocal agreement between Washington County and Washington City for tourism tax funding to assist in the development of multiple facilities in Washington City.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I have to say that because I have to keep up with the Snows, who, according to
Blame
Commissioner Snow, they came here, you know.
Yeah.
They built this podium.
No, but we did everything else.
No, but we're probably on the homestead of the Snow family, who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
They probably herded their goats across here at some point.
Cattle.
Cattle? Goats. No goats?
Good. Feral pigs?
Nope.
Can you contact Kevin and get us chupacabra licenses and? Okay.
Nope.
Night hunting? All right. Having said that, item 13, Lucky 13, consideration of resolution number R-2024-3367, a resolution approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with World Senior Games, Inc.
Yes, recently the Tourism Tax Advisory Board approved the funding of the transient room tax for a 4-year marketing agreement starting in 2025 with the Huntsman World Senior Games, so that we become the presenting and official sponsor of the games. As you guys know, the Huntsman World Senior Games actually starts next week, but it's coming close to 40 years. It has a huge, substantial economic impact into our community. For 2 weeks, they'll have over 11,000 athletes that will be here. The games, I kind of been talking about Ironman the last few weeks with a lot of people. I started talking about how the games have been here longer, and it's part of the buildup of tourism, the sports economy here in Washington County, and kind of the granddaddy, minus the pun, sorry for the age there. But it's one of the staple events that happen here. I was just in California last week talking, and everybody who came up says, well, you have the games, you have the senior games, you've got the games, you don't need us. And so it is world renowned for the impact it has on that community. And that's what this is a new marketing agreement, a new future with the games and what they have here in the community.
Chad, would you mind having Kyle come up and give us some highlights of things that are happening this year, maybe some of the new things? And then off the cuff, I'd like him to do that rap you did last year.
I still have it memorized, so thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the games. I know you all have families at home, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I'll share maybe a couple of things.
Hey, we
that
have
you
a
might
public
find
hearing
interesting.
after this meeting, so we're here as long as you want.
So this is our 37th year, as Chad just said, and very excited to be a vibrant part of the community and the economic impact that tourism has. We've been talking a little bit of a theme about affordable housing. I don't know that we can solve the affordable housing issue. In fact, I'm confident that we cannot solve that issue, but we're very proud to be a part of the tourism economy that helps offset taxes for families here in Washington County and the greater Zion area and in the communities surrounding us. We started the games in 1987. Gil, you remember John and Daisy Morgan. I know you knew them. Maybe the other commissioners knew them as well. But their goal was to foster worldwide peace, health, and friendship. And that has continued to be our mission and our driving force. But they also wanted people to stay in their hotel. And so it was very much an economic impact decision to start the games. And we've just continued that and been proud, again, to be a part of that. This year we do have a big announcement. We are going to be acting as the Senior World Championships from now on. We looked around at the senior sporting world. There are a number of senior events. There are a number of master events, but we recognized that in that community of sporting events, there was no one that was providing a Senior World Championship experience for athletes over the age of 50. And we felt like we were uniquely qualified to fill that role. And we're very excited about that because we feel like it's going to really help us in our marketing efforts and our economic impact goals moving forward. As I've been out in the nation and in the world and talked with people, specifically teams, especially international teams, they recognize the expense of traveling to a community like ours, and they want to make sure that it's worth their while. And I've met with a number of teams over the years that have said, yeah, we only go to world championship events. We only go to events that are national championship type events. And so to be able to offer that to international teams, I think is really going to help drive our event moving forward, which really benefits not only the international athletes, but it benefits the domestic athletes as well, because they get to come here and play against athletes from China, from Spain, from Italy, from South America, and it really enhances the overall experience. So we're very, very excited to be moving forward with the World Championship designation. Every gold medalist that goes home this year will go home a world champion, and we're excited to fulfill that role in an area that we're very passionate about. This year, we will break a participation record, and also very excited about that, especially with a lot of the things that are going on in our community at this time. Our previous record was 11,671 athletes. We're currently over 11,850 athletes. To put that in perspective, the Olympics in Paris that just happened hosted 10,500. So we're not only ahead of them from a participation standpoint, but we get to host our event every single year. And we get to host it right here in our community every single year. So we'll host almost 50,000 athletes before the Olympics are hosted in Los Angeles in 4 years. So it's a very, very impactful event, not only economically to our community, but to the senior athletes that participate and are a part of it every year. Two other really quick things. We did have new countries that are going to be represented this year. We always track how many athletes come from outside of the United States. We'll be hosting athletes for the very first time from Belize, which we feel good about, and then also from the territory of Hong Kong. Now, we have had Chinese athletes before, but never from the territory of Hong Kong, and they consider Hong Kong similar to the way that we consider Puerto Rico. It's a territory of the nation, and we track countries, nations, and territories. And so that brings us up to 91 different countries, nations, and territories that have been hosted at the games since we started. The second thing, the last thing I'll share with you, and then again, I want to answer any questions that you have, is that our athletes, when they come here and experience this event, because of this beautiful area, because of the experience that they have, because of the competition that they experience, they tend to come back. We have an 80% return rate of athletes, which tells us that we're doing something right. People like to come, they like to come back, and the great thing is that they like to come back with friends, and oftentimes those friends have never been here before. So we have about 20% of our athletes that are very first time, never been to the World Senior Games, and in many cases, never been to our community ever. And if you think about what that means, you look at almost 12,000 athletes, 20% of them are brand new, never been here before. I mean, that's 3,500-ish athletes just in first-year athletes. And that amounts to approximately 150-team softball tournament that is brand new every year, that comes into our community, obviously stays in hotels, eats in restaurants, leaves a lot of money here in the community, and we love being a part of that. That's exciting for us. I can go on and on and on, but any questions?
Well, you've had kind of this logjam with other events going on at the same time. Have you been able to find residential housing or hotels? And I know it was a concern of yours even.
It was a very big concern.
8 months ago.
Yeah, a very big concern of ours. We spent a lot of this year wringing our hands. What we were worried about is that people would register for the games thinking they could find their housing later, and then they would have to come back to us and cancel. And that has not been the case. We have had a small handful of athletes that have requested cancellation because they couldn't find housing. We got out in front of it as far as we could and made sure that our athletes recognized that there were other events happening in the community. We encouraged them to take advantage of the prices before they got too high. We think that they listened to that advice. And then with the expansion of, as you mentioned, nightly rentals and things in our community, that's really taken a lot of pressure off of the lodging community and allowed, so far at least, allowed the events to happen simultaneously.
Well, no doubt a huge impact.
Yeah.
It's a great event. Really cool. You've been around that long.
But just thinking, you guys started when I was young, and
well, speaking of that,
now you're almost eligible.
Well, I was just wondering, with both of your advanced age, are you guys going to participate this year? Or you have a team? Or
I need to find a sport that I'm good enough in. You guys, I mean,
we have 36 different sports. We like to say there's something for everyone.
I better start practicing one of them.
Yeah. In fact, this is my first year of eligibility. I turned 50 in January, and so I'll be competing for the very first time ever in the
I was joking. I actually didn't realize you both would qualify, but I'm so glad I said that. Now
You mean 50 is the qualifying age?
50 is the qualifying year.
Oh my goodness, I could have been playing for the last 3 years.
Well, we would extend an invitation.
Yeah.
Any new sports?
2 new sports. We added disc golf this year with the addition of the Beaverwood Disc Golf course. We felt like we now had the ability to move forward with disc golf. And then we've also added climbing. And we're going to use contact climbing, the contact climbing gym that's over by Costco, as our venue there. That'll be one of the sports that I'm competing in this year. And so, yeah, 2 new sports, and always looking for opportunities to grow and expand.
Very cool. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3367, approving the expenditure of TRT funding for an event marketing agreement with World Senior Games, Inc.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second.
Thanks for all you do, Kyle. Appreciate it.
In favor,
Thank you,
say
Commissioners.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 14, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3368, a resolution in support of the state of Utah's lawsuit to transfer 18.5 million acres of public land to the World Senior Games. To the state of Utah.
Yeah. This is just a follow-up to the presentation that we had last commission meeting, commissioners, from Attorney General Sean Reyes.
Yeah.
The legislature and the state have taken a great leadership on this to sue the federal government, something that hasn't been tried in this way before, for the release of millions of acres, almost 20 million acres of unappropriated BLM land, which is land, just to clarify again as he presented, but for the public who maybe not have watched last time, This is land that has not been congressionally designated either through a forest, because that would be to the Department of Agriculture, but wilderness area or national park or monument or area of critical environmental concern or some other, national conservation area, some other higher designation. This is just regular, run-of-the-mill, multiple-use BLM land. The intent from the legislature was that there's language in the laws that say that when this land is released, but there's no trigger to force it. Now, in every other state, until you get to the few western public land states, it was released. It was sold. It was privatized. It was given to the states, and it was developed. And we have not had that. We're at a disadvantage. There's multiple constitutional claims here, and personally, and I know you both are as well, very supportive of the state's effort, working to see whatever we can do to help with amicus briefs or anything else on this issue. It mirrors, our county mirrors the state almost identically by about 2/3 owned by the federal government, a large portion of that being BLM land. And so this is a resolution to support the state's lawsuit and to do what Washington County can to seek to transfer these federal lands back to state control. And with that, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3368. This resolution in support of the state of Utah's lawsuit to transfer 18.5 million acres of public land to the state of Utah.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, let's hope they heard that somewhere else. And like you said, the trigger for Kansas and Oklahoma were those giant land rushes, Bring your wagons. You see them, hundreds of them going out just to get their parcel. All right, having said that, the next item, 15, in consideration of resolution number R 2024-3369, a resolution of appointment of a Washington County representative and an alternate representative for the Utah County's Indemnity Pool, as we affectionately call USIP, at their annual membership meeting. It's got my name on it, but Victor, why don't you tell us what you've done so far this year?
Well, just very quickly for anybody who might be wondering what this is, we have a self-insurance pool among us counties where we insure our property. This keeps our rates low for the taxpayers. We're a member of that pool and I serve on its board, and we have an annual meeting that they require this resolution. And so the appointee to represent Washington County at that membership meeting would be Victor Iverson, myself, and Adam Snow would be the alternate representative. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2024-3369 with those two names submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 16, consideration of resolution number R 2024-3370, a resolution approving the issuance of a request for qualifications for the Emergency Operations and Legacy Park Storage Facility. Devin.
Thank you. This is a resolution that directs staff to prepare a request for qualifications from potential contractors. This allows the county to pre-qualify bidders before issuing a request for bids on a project. So essentially, it narrows the pool of bidding contractors to those who are qualified to do this kind of work. Under state law, the county can elect to follow specific portions of the state procurement code for a specific procurement. So this resolution makes it clear that the county is electing to use the pre-qualification process that's allowed under state code 63G-6A-410. So this is for this specific procurement. This resolution also appoints a review committee that would review and score the proposals that come in. I've proposed in this resolution to have the county administrator, the county attorney or a designee, and Jason Whipple would sit on that review committee.
Very good. It's pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution R 2024-3370, approving the issuance of a request for qualifications for the Emergency Operations and Legacy Park Storage Facility.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Appreciate that. These meetings are rebroadcast daily on TDS cable channels 22 and 108 at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. They're also available on demand at youtube.com/community education channel, for which we are grateful. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.